Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar. The topic is how to play with a strong pawn center. Sorry about the sound. I just fixed it. I forgot to click on my microphone. Okay, I can make the microphone enable for those who want, because we are going to analyze the game. I'm going to ask you questions. So if you want to answer with your microphone, I can just enable it for you. Do you hear me now? Please type pluses in the chat if you can hear, if everything works. Okay, fine. Okay, who wants microphone? I know that Natalie wants, so I... Okay, Elliot? Huh. Unfortunately, I can't turn your microphone on because you are using mobile phone. Looks like it has some restrictions when you use your mobile phone. Sorry about that. Okay, Christina, and you too. If you can join with a computer, it will be fine. Yeah, looks like it doesn't work with... Okay, yeah, just leave the event and then come back. Christina, this is what I suggest you to do. From computer, then I can enable your microphone. And Yashu. Okay, I turned the microphone on. And guys, you have a cogwheel. If you click on it, then you will see the settings. You should allow your microphone there. Natalie, please try to do it. Click on settings. It's somewhere inside this webinar room. I can hear you.
Алло, слышно меня?
Yes. It would be great if you if you talk in English.
Okay.
Okay, you may mute yourself to avoid additional noise, and when I ask something, you can unmute you. Did you find how? Okay, yes, it works. Now you are muted, and then when you have something to say, you can unmute and say. Natalie?
Yeah.
So did you understand what I said? I mean, to avoid additional noise on the webinar, you may mute your microphone for a while. And when I ask something, you can unmute and then say your suggestion, your line, or anything.
Okay, got it.
Okay, fine. Okay, looks like there is a problem with Yashu's microphone. I can also enable the microphone for Yashu's other account. Oh, it should work. I don't know.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, and the microphone for Christina.
I can hear you.
Okay, fine, it works. And okay, Yashu and Christina, so to avoid additional noise, you may mute your microphone for a while, and when I ask a question and you have the answer, you want to say something, you can unmute and then suggest something. Okay? Okay, I hope was it clear. I'm just we're gonna start soon. I want to run a stream on Facebook. So just wait a second. Okay, let's start. Mhm. Okay, I'm starting screen sharing, and then you can see my screen. And we're gonna start with the game analysis. And it's Lev Polugaevsky playing with Mikhail Tal. Again, can you see the board? Is everything okay? Okay, fine. Let's start. Okay, so first, tell me in which openings you may face with a strong pawn center. Okay, and what actually a strong pawn center means? Oh, it can be just two pawns standing on e4 and d4, and maybe one pawn supporting them. Where you can meet such positions?
In the French defense.
Right. What else? What other openings? Oh, yeah, sure. What opening you play, and you always meet. I'm absolutely sure. Maybe in every fourth game you play this opening and get a strong pawn center. Oh, it's actually Evans Gambit.
Okay.
So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5. Then we play b4, sacrificing the pawn, and then c3, bishop moves. Then d4. So this is a strong pawn center. And we may also play with a strong pawn center when we are black and we play Count Sicilian. So knight takes on d4, then usually we play a6 in this position. Now, in some variations, knight c6 works. And if they take on c6, maybe not in this concrete position, but in this opening in a few moves later, we may have these two pawns, e6 and c6, and our goal is to play d5. So this is a strong pawn center for black, and it's really easy to play for black. Of course, white has some other benefits like better development, for example, but this position is quite good for black. This is what I actually like to play. Moreover, for these positions, I can say that black can use the B and the C files to attack the enemy pawns there. In case if white captures on D5, then we take with the C pawn. Okay, this is what we play. Of course, I believe maybe the most popular opening when we not we, but when players usually have a strong pawn center is Greenfield defense. For example, white starts like they are playing Queen's Gambit, g6, knight c3, bishop g7. Then, for example, actually bishop g7, then e4, and this is King's Indian defense. And again, we have strong pawn center. Instead of bishop g7, people play d5. Oh, those who wants to play Greenfield defense, they play this move. And here, white also has a pawn strong center. However, in this opening, black has a counterplay, and black wants to attack the center with bishop g7 and c5. If I were playing this position, I would prefer white pieces, of course. Okay, so let's start with the game analysis. The game started with c4, knight f6, knight c3, e6, knight f3, and then d5. And after d4, it's just a common queen's gambit. c5 was played by black. And now I want to ask you how to play for white. If you want to take the pawn, which of them would you like to take? Which of them first? The d5 pawn or the c5 pawn? So what do you think how to play? Oh, actually, it's okay. There was a suggestion that we may face with a strong pawn center in English opening. Not really. Maybe in some of the lines, yes. Maybe no. There is a line. There is one line that I remember that where we may get a strong pawn center, but it's only one line. It's not very common for English opening. Okay, how would you play in this position? Would you capture on c5 or on d5 first? What do you think? Please suggest a move. Okay, I also enabled the microphone for Nguyen, so you may also say, okay, so Christina suggests to take on c5, and this is a possible move if we want to play against an isolated pawn on d5, but if we take on c5 immediately, we allow him to take with the bishop in one move. It's much better when black has to spend two tempers. So, for example, he plays bishop a7, and then we take on c5. So I think d takes on c5 is too early. In the game, it was played c takes on d5. Okay, and now what do you think? What black should do? Should he take on d5 with his knight or a pawn on e6? What's better? So knight takes on d5, and Natalia suggests e takes on d5. As for e takes on d5, I can definitely say that after bishop g5, white is better. This is how white puts some pressure on the pin and is threatening to take on c5 and create, make a d5 pawn a weakness. Knight takes on d5 is much better. This is actually what was played in the game. And then white played e4 and got a strong pawn center. However, what if instead c takes on d4? Queen takes on d4 and e takes on d5. How would you play in this position for white? Black is going to play knight c6 and attack our queen. Maybe it's not a big deal, but maybe you can try to find here something that can help you to hold the initiative. Yes, e4, right. Christina is correct. E4, what's the idea of this move? If knight c6, we play bishop e5 now and pin this knight, and we may also take it. If they take on e4 with the pawn, we trade. King takes. And here we have several moves, but at least g5 helps us to regain a pawn. And at the same time, you may notice that white pieces are located better. White can also castle queenside and join the rook to the send file. So e4 is the best option. Okay, let's now go back to the game. It was knight d5 played here and e4. And by the way, here, of course, d takes on c5 is a mistake, because then they take, queen takes d8, king takes d8, b takes c3, and bishop c5. He has a bishop pair. We have a weakness on c3. And after king e7, he almost solves all his problems, and black position is fine. So, of course, that's why e4, knight c3, b takes on c3, and the strong pawn center for white. If black capture is on d4, we take with our c3 pawn, and this is what exactly happened. Bishop b4. Oh, bishop d2 is an obvious move. What if queen a5 now? How would play for white in this position after this move? How to react? This move wasn't played in the game. Instead, black decided to take on d2 immediately. But anyway, we should understand what to do in case of queen a5. Okay, what can you suggest? How white can play in this position? Queen c2. What's the idea of queen c2? To attack maybe this bishop on c8, but he can castle or play knight c6. Any other suggestions instead of queen c2? Rook c1 with the same idea, but then just castle. a3. Okay, a3 is a possible move. a3, bishop takes on d2. Queen takes on d2, then if they trade, we take with our king to centralize the king. Oh, a3 it's not a helpful move actually, but yes, here white has advantage, so a3 works, but it's not the best one. The best move is rook b1 to attack the bishop, and also maybe b7 pawn in future. And also we keep in mind the idea to play rook b5. For example, how to play? Now, if knight c6, then what would you do? Knight c6 is a critical mistake in this position, maybe even a blunder. So what can you do after this move? I can give you a hint. White gains the material. d5. Oh, okay. If d5, then I think bishop d2 can be played. So d5, bishop d2, queen d2, queen takes queen, king takes queen. e takes d5, e takes d5, then knight goes to maybe e7. Oh, white is slightly better, but that's not the best move. d5 doesn't really help us to win any material. Okay, anyway, guys, you may use your microphone and say something with microphone. Just unmute it and suggest a line. I think it will be much faster. Yeah, sure. What's the idea of bishop b4 move? Bishop b4 and knight takes on b4, and how to continue? If queen d2, then to pin, knight can just go back to c6. Okay. Yasho, can you? Okay, instead of bishop b4, do you have any other suggestions? It doesn't really work. It's just a trade and nothing more. Okay, so it's a rook b4 move. Rook b4, knight takes on b4, and then we play queen b3. Pinning the knight. On the next move we take it, and this is how we get two minor pieces for a rook. That's why after rook b1, bishop d2, queen d2, queen takes, king takes, and this position is much better. Instead of useless move a3, we played rook b1 to put some pressure on b7, then play bishop d3, get our rook to the c file. And this in game is much better for us. Okay. However, instead of queen a5, bishop takes on d2 was played, queen takes on d2, and castle. And what do you think about this position? How should white continue his piece's development? Which move to continue? And what actually white should do? I am sure that at least white should finish his development and make a castle. What's the next move? Bishop e2. Bishop on e2 doesn't do anything. I mean, yes, it's time to develop the bishop, but let's find the better square. I mean, the best square for this bishop. Bishop d3. Bishop d3 looks better, but then, yes, this is a clear idea to take on h7 in future. But what if knight c6? How to deal with the hanging pawn d4 now? Because if we play e5 to protect the pawn on d4, then, for example, king h8 can be played. So I hope it's obvious that knight d4 is a bad move. And bishop h7 winning the queen. So, for example, black can play king h8, the pawn is hanging. It looks like we have to play with the bishop again. Instead of king move, he can just play b6, develop his light squared bishop. So we shouldn't play e5. That was my idea. It's too early. Instead of bishop d3, we should play bishop c4. We also keep in mind the idea to play d5. Not immediately, but maybe later. Okay, bishop c4 was played. Then knight c6. The pawn is not hanging. We have enough defenders. Castle. And b6 was played in the game with the idea to develop our to develop their bishop on c8. However, what if black plays e5? What should we do? Should we take or push the pawn forward? Push the pawn. Okay, so this move looks better. Because if we take, by the way, if we take, what do you expect black to play? Queen takes queen. Okay, what else? Knight takes e5. Yes, knight e5 is much better because here white can't take on e5. The queen is hanging, and if white decides to trade the queens first, then black has intermediate move. Knight takes on f3, and it ruins white's pawn structure on the king side. So knight e5 is better. Yes, we should play d5 here. Then, for example, knight goes to a5. And please tell me, can we take on e5 in this position with our knight? So is it a good move or not? So for example, let me put this move on the board. What options does black have now? Rook e8. Rook e8, yes. Because of rook e8, you're absolutely right. Right, and not because of queen c7. If queen c7, then queen d4. Then what? If rook e8, then d6. Then we take on f7. That's why here rook e, of course, f6 doesn't work. f6, then just d6 check. King h8, knight f7, winning the exchange. But rook e8, this move works for black, and it gives black more advantage. For example, then queen d4, rook takes e5, queen e5, knight c4. Queen goes back, then b5, and black is better here. Or maybe not much, but anyway, it's better to play this position for black. Okay. Oh, because of two minor pieces for a rook. So we can't take on e5, but we may play just rook f to c1. Knight takes, rook takes, f6. Then we double the rooks, get the control over the c file. We are threatening to play rook c7. And another idea is to play knight e1, knight d3, then knight can move to c5. White is better in this position. This light squared bishop doesn't do really much because our pawns located on the light squares on d5 and d4. If needed, we may play f3. Okay, let's go back. So e5 wasn't played, instead b6, rook a d1, bishop b7. Then just centralize the rook, knight a5, bishop goes to d3. Now there is no enough pressure on d4, so we may locate the bishop here with the idea to start the attack on the enemy king. Rook c8 was played by black, and this is a critical moment in the game. And now I want you to come up with a plan for white. Okay, maybe here you need a few minutes to think what white should do, what white's plan. If white wants to start the attack on the king side, which move to start with and what kind of attack it should be. A strong pawn center gives white more space. At the same time, it restricts enemy pieces. It's much better when there are more minor pieces on the board, but unfortunately for white, two pairs of minor pieces were traded and only two pairs left. However, we can still use the advantage of the strong pawn center and find a plan that can give us advantage. Of course, uh, it's not a winning plan because if black doesn't make any mistake, then he can draw the game. But it's a plan that can potentially improve our position. So Christina suggests rook c1 with the idea to get the control over the c file, probably. That's not a big mistake. I just don't understand why this move is played. For example, what if just queen e7 to connect the rooks? What then? Then my next move is rook fd8. I mean, black wants to play rook fd8, and uh, no, there is nothing that white can do. So it's not rook c1. It's something with a kingside attack. Because you see, almost all white pieces are looking to the king side, especially the bishop from d3. The queen can join to the king side, so knight g5 can be played as well. If we play e5 in this position, for example, then bishop f3 can be played. It ruins our pawn structure. At the same time, after this move, he can play queen h4. So first he takes on f3, g takes on f3, and then he plays queen h4. Then I don't think we have any chances to succeed in this attack. Moreover, it makes our d4 pawn a weakness if there is no knight. So it's not e5 move. We may play e5, but not now. So it's a d5 move. Why do we sacrifice the pawn? E takes on d5. What then? So why d5 was played? What we want to do? If we take on d5, what's then? Queen d5. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, sure. If we take on d5, then, for example, queen captures on d5, then what? Bishop h7 to win the pawn back? But then maybe rook c2, or... No, actually, I like rook c2 move. I would say that this position is equal. So queen d5 doesn't work. I mean, not queen d5. E takes on d5 doesn't work, but how to play? No, pawn takes on d5. This is what I just demonstrated. Then queen d5, then there is nothing better than taking on h7. It leads to this endgame where the material is equal and white doesn't really have any advantage. Okay, in this position, white decided to play e5. The d5 pawn blocks the enemy bishop and allows us to start the attack on the king side. Well, knight c4 was played in the game, but what if, for example, g6? We play queen h6, of course, then f5. And what do you think we should do? How to continue our attack in this position? How to create more weaknesses on the king side? What do you think? This e6, you mean? E6. This is a possible move. However, I want you to start with h4 first. Here to play h5, we can g6. But yes, e6 can be played immediately or one move later. Okay, knight c4 was played. Queen goes to f4. Knight b2, fork. How would you play in this position? This is a typical position where white can apply certain tactical motive. If I'm not mistaken, with all of you, maybe not with all, but with some of you, I spent a lesson about this tactical motive. Okay, if you can't calculate the line to the very end, just suggest what thoughts you have. Okay, so here white can sacrifice on h7. This is what exactly white did. King h7, knight g5. And if, for example, king g8, then we play queen h4, threatening to give a checkmate on h7. It's not easy to defend. There is no pieces that can protect the h7 square. That's why the only way is to play rook e8. But then instead of playing queen h7, we first play e6. Here, black can play two moves. Actually, knight d1 doesn't really work. If he play like this, then we can we can check king f8 and e7. After he takes, queen h8 is a checkmate. So after e6, black has to take on e6. Then check, king f8, another check, then we may take on g7 and finally play knight f7, winning a queen. So king g8 is a bad move, and he has to play to g6, but here we don't have enough material to checkmate immediately. What do you think? How to continue this attack? h4, right. h4, and we are okay with sacrificing on d1 because then we play h5, king takes on h5, g4. Well, if he goes to g6, then it's obvious we check here, and then finally Wait. Yes, then finally we do these. He takes on g5, queen h5, he goes to f4, and queen f5. This is a checkmate. If here he goes to h4, then knight f3, and then queen g3. This is a checkmate. But it was a rook c4 played. And how would you play after this move? There are actually two obvious solutions in this position. However, your task is to choose a better one. In the game, unfortunately, Lev Polugaevsky made a mistake, and this mistake could cost him half of a point. So how to react to this queen's attack? h5. Actually, this is what was played in the game, and this is a mistake because there is a strong attack, but it was much better to play safer, rook d4. For example, he takes, queen takes, knight is hanging here. If we just win knight, we have equal material, and it's a win position with such a weak king on g6. If knight c4, queen d3 check, king h5, then queen h7, and then we are very close to checkmate here. We just play queen f5, and he can't escape. Queen g4 is our next move. If bishop c8, for example, or something like this, then just e6. And we play queen g4 a little bit later. Oh, okay, so rook d4 was a good move. At the same time, we keep in mind the idea to play h5. Because after h5, if we play this move immediately, then we have to play this forced line. Oh, if king g5, then it's easy. Just g4 and king goes to h6. And then we checkmate in two moves. In three. Like this. So he takes, and no, he didn't take. He played king h6. And what to do? Our queen is hanging. We have only one move. What is this move? What to do to continue the attack? Our queen is hanging. Our knight on g5 is hanging. What's the best option here? Knight f7, yes. Knight e4 is not so strong because he can escape to h7, and it's a pin. The best thing we can do is to check him again by playing knight g5. So knight f7, double check. King has to move to h7. Our queen is hanging. We have to play queen f5 check. King g8. And if now we take his queen, he takes our. We may take on b7, but then maybe he takes on h5 or play rook c2. So it's not the best choice. E6. This is what we should play. And in this position, yeah, we're threatening to play e7 with our pawn to fork him, and black has now maybe two moves. One of them, oh, actually, yeah, queen f7 can be played. If queen e7, then how to continue? h6, right. h6 threatening to play h7, and this is a checkmate. For example, rook h4. But then we may play rook d4, attacking this rook. If queen f6 here, then we take pawn takes, and then we just take on h4. Then promote the pawn. What else can he do? He may take on h6 right now. Then we should take with our knight, pawn takes. Here, rook g4. He goes to h8. And then I think enough just to play queen g6 move, threatening to give a checkmate on not on g7, but threatening to play queen h6. And when he blocks on h7 with the queen, he loses the rook on f8. If queen h7 immediately, then we push the pawn forward, and there is no queen rook e8 move. We just take on e8 for free, so he has no time to trade the queens. We'll promote first and then take his queen with our rook. Okay. Okay, let's go back. So instead of queen e7, you see queen e7 doesn't work because of h6 move. Here, queen f6. This move was played in the game. Six, g takes on f6, and how to continue in this position. So here we should notice that this rook is hanging. Or maybe we can find a counterplay instead of saving the rook. We have a strong pawn on e6, so if you can see what we can do to promote it, maybe we can sacrifice the rook. Okay, so actually knight d6, this is one of the possible moves in this position, but not the best one. So because then, for example, knight takes on d1, then e7, rook c1, he takes, I mean, mean rook c1, and if he takes, then king takes, he may capture on d7, but then position is unclear. Instead, just rook d2, the move that's played in the game. Rook d2, and here rook c6, just to stop knight coming to d6. Oh, for example, save the knight by playing knight e4, but then we play knight to d6. If actually two of his pieces are hanging, so if he moves his rook to c6, we just play e7, e6. Here we play knight c4, pawn takes on c4, then rook d6, attacking the bishop. Bishop moves to e8, then e7, rook f7, and rook d8. Winning the bishop. This is a winning position anyway. So that's why he decided to sacrifice the knight on b2, played rook d6, rook b2, rook to e8, and here knight h6 check, king h7, knight f5. Unfortunately, white has to leave the pawn on e6 unprotected. Rook c2. And now I want to ask you what black should do to defend his position. We are threatening with rook c7. It's obvious. What white can do? Rook c6, right. Rook c6. This is actually what was played. Another option is bishop c6. If bishop c6, then we may play king h2 just. No, just what's the idea of king h2? Because we want to play knight d4, but then rook e1 is a check. So first we play. No, you see, actually, knight d4, he gives a check on e1 with his rook, then king escapes to h2, but then bishop goes to a4. It's still a winning position for us, but instead of playing this move, it was better to play king h2 first because he is in the zugzwang, he doesn't have moves, and then knight d4 is a huge threat. So rook c6, this move was played in the game. Rook e2 to occupy the other file and to be able to play rook e7. Bishop to c8, then check, king h8. And what to do with the hanging knight, how to play with, here we have to play with the knight. I don't believe g4 works. If g4, he'll take, and then we have to play this in game. I'm not sure it's winning. So whether to move our knight now, how would you play in this position? Okay, so Mike suggests to play knight d4 to stop a rook c2 move. So knight d4 to stop rook c2. That makes sense. However, it's not the best option. The best option here is knight to h4 to be able to play knight g6 and then advance the pawn. For example, f5, this is what happened in the game, knight g6, king goes to g8, and in this position, h6 is too early because the knight is hanging, but we can just on a7. And this is where black resigned. What are we threatening with? So, for example, yeah, here it's obvious that knight e7 is a fork and we win a rook. What if rook to e6? Then we can still capture this bishop. Okay, looks like it's a winning position anyway. Okay, so this is the whole game. We analyzed it. What I want you to remember, let's just go back. So, yes, this is a critical moment of the game where white decided to play d5, sacrifice the pawn. So usually we don't advance the pawn center because we don't want one of the pawns to be exchanged. We can only do it if we get some other benefits. For example, here white played d5 because then he got a kingside attack. And the strong pawn center is very important when we play with many minor pieces on the board because it helps to restrict them. So we are done with the game analysis. Now I want to share an exercise with you. Just wait a second. I will upload the position and then ask you a few more questions. Okay. Okay, now you see the board, and in this position, I want to ask you, can black play e4? Yes, he has a strong pawn center, and what happens if he advances his pawn to e4? Okay, you may think for a while and try to calculate what's the idea of the e4 move. Maybe it's not the best move in this position, but here your task is to calculate the line after e4. It's not only to open the F file for black, but the general idea is to trade the pawn on d3, get two central pawns, and then maybe advance them to attack enemy pieces. Maybe the rook also, you can then attack the f2 pawn, so that makes sense. However, here I want to ask you if e4 works, because let's calculate the number of attackers and defenders. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 attackers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defenders of e4 square. So if black just plays e4 to be able to trade on this square, he loses this exchange. Okay, I can make the move on the board. So what can happen after that? For example, d captures on e4, then f captures on e4, then what do you expect white to play? For example, what if he plays knight e4? How would you continue in this position? Oh, maybe it's better to flip the board. So now you are white. You were white here, or you were black here. So how would you continue for black now? Your queen is hanging, by the way, on d6. Okay, knight f e4. I would take with my... No, actually, okay, knight f to e4. Then bishop e4, of course. And what's the next move? If knight takes on e4, then rook takes on e4. That's not in our favor. Can you find a better move for black now? Bishop f5. Yes, you're right, because after this move, the bishop is pinned, and if he takes on f5, we just take on e2. And there are no defenders on e4. I mean, this knight on b4 can't really e4, no way counterplay or tactic here. If, for example, if we go back, if, for example, here, instead of taking with the knight, he takes with his bishop, then still bishop f5 with the same idea. Okay, fine. We are done with this exercise. Then I'm going to give you one more as a homework. Okay. Please look at the screen and find the best continuation for white. Here, of course, white has a strong pawn center. His c4 pawn supports the pawn on d5, but black wants to trade two of these pawns and then only d5 pawns is left. So if you were white, what would you do in such a situation? And of course, to trade everything in the center is not in your favor. So your task is to watch this video again. I mean, not the entire video, just the last position, this one that I demonstrated, and find the best move for white. And also next lesson provide me with the line that clearly provides white with an advantage. It can be a material advantage or a positional advantage. And remember that our topic was a strong pawn center, so this line should be about a pawn center. Okay, thank you everyone for joining the webinar. Thank you for participating. And yes, Michael, you're right about the lesson. Okay, if you don't have any questions, then we'll finish. Actually, there are not so many attendees. So anyway, thank you for coming. You may also invite your friends or people you usually play with. Hope to see you on the next webinar. Thank you.